All right, we just walked out of the theater. First reaction, John.
Oh my God, they killed Iron Man.
Okay.
It was good. It was fulfilling.
Very fulfilling, emotional, and I think people are going to be maybe shedding a tear or two.
What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. In just a sec, you're getting my review right out of the theater. But first, I want to give you guys a summary of what Black Panther Wakanda Forever is all about. So Queen Ramonda, Shuri, M'Baku, and Okoye fight to protect the kingdom of Wakanda from intervening world powers in the wake of King T'Challa's death. As the Wakandans strive to embrace their next chapter, the heroes must band together with the help of War Dog Nakia and Everett to forge a new path for their nation, going up against the character known as Namor. This movie is rated PG-13 for sequences of strong violence, action, and some language. If you guys are here and you want to support this channel, the best way to do that is by dropping that like down below or just leaving a comment. What is your favorite MCU Phase 4 movie to date? Let's go over to myself and the Flick Pick.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. I have John. He's doing the thing. John, you doing the thing?
I'm doing it.
Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
I feel like everyone's going to do that. You know what? This is a movie that I was very hesitant for until that first trailer. The first trailer got me emotional. John, I'm going to throw it to you first. Did this pay off on that trailer?
It did. If you like the trailer for this movie didn't lie to you. It's exactly the tone, the consistency, and sort of the story you would expect from the trailer. So going into it, I wasn't really surprised. I was just more or less pleased with what they did.
Yeah. There's a lot going on here. There are these different worlds that they're building up, a new character in Namor, but you have those characters from the first film that they're really developing well. And Ryan Coogler, man, he's doing a lot with his direction. We've said it a few times in our videos, John. This may be his best effort in the MCU in terms of direction, and the action scenes were handled with class.
Yeah, the cinematography in the third act of this film, you could actually see what was happening in comparison to the first film.
Yeah.
I actually preferred this movie over the first movie, by far.
Wow, by far. Okay, so what about this work better, just so they know?
Just the narrative was far more interesting. It wasn't sort of that standard solo superhero movie.
Sure.
It went different directions. We talked about the sort of the politics in the first few acts of this film, but it had a few twists and turns I wasn't quite expecting, but I just felt something by the third act of this, and I haven't felt that in a Marvel film for the last, couple movies in this phase. Yeah.
You were more optimistic when you walked out of the theater this time around than I've seen you during some of the other Marvel movies.
Yeah, it didn't feel like an SNL sketch. It's like, oh, there's emotion, there's a story.
Yeah.
And
they didn't do a lot of the, we're going to throw in the humorous moments. Now, it's a little bit of humor, there's a little bit of levity. We need that because the emotion, man, it's heavy. And it's not just at the beginning, it's in the middle. And then it's at the end. And it keeps getting heavy. And that's what you wanted with this type of movie, right? Here are my negatives. There are a lot of characters in this film and a few characters that I just feel like they didn't need to be in here. I want to focus on Wakanda. I want to focus on Namor and his world. When we're throwing it back to the U.S., and I like Martin Freeman. He's good in the role, but I just felt like that was kind of unnecessary. Joe, what are your flaws with this movie?
Everything you just said. Every time I went back to the CIA agency, boring subplot, you don't need it, you don't want it, no one cares about it. It affects nothing in the story. They don't help anything or deter anything really whatsoever with that whole subplot. The Namor, the underworld-esque avatar people that live in the ocean, the Aztecians, whatever you want to call them, the Mayans. I enjoyed looking at that. It was very Aquaman-esque.
Yeah.
Meets Avatar. Nothing wrong with that. But I like that. I think that was a really cool antagonist for this movie.
The set pieces, the world building, and the idea of getting behind the villainous presence. It's not just a villain for the sake of being a villain. No, there's actually a reason for there to be opposition to the forces that we are supposed to be rooting for, and I thought that was an aspect of the story that I did not see coming at all.
Yeah, he has like a gray zone vibe with the villain. He's not just night and day. There's a logic, there's a reason for what he's doing. That's the best kind of villain, where you can almost understand his ideology and why he wants to do what he wants to do.
I absolutely agree, but it's not a movie without the cameos. You get a couple of things in terms of references, like words that they use, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, that's cool. But it doesn't try to shoehorn those things in there. It focuses on the stories and the characters. And I had a hesitation about one plot point in particular. After the movie was over, I said, you know what? I'm kind of glad they made that decision. I'm glad, man. There were a couple of decisions in this movie that I'm glad that they made, where before the movie started, I would have said, I hope they don't do that. But
Can you whisper the plot point in my ear? Oh yes, yeah. I was
Right?
It worked. I actually liked it more than I thought I would with that plot point.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I expected it to sort of happen, but it felt like the necessary way to go.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah.
Probably the biggest kudos here, and the performances are great. Like I thought Letitia Wright did an amazing job. Angela Bassett, obviously. Okoye is a great character, but Ryan Coogler, man, this is if the first movie was Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman, kind of their baby, then this is a movie that is more so Ryan Coogler's baby, and he just knocks it out of the park here. Absolutely knocks it out of the park. So, you know, it's going to be hard to compare the first Black Panther to the second Black Panther, but I thought Wakanda Forever worked just as good. I got to think about it, but I thought it worked just as well.
I think it's a superior film. I think it's the better story. And you know, you don't have Chadwick Boseman returning once again. I understand that.
Sure.
But I think they did everything to make a good film continuing on.
I agree. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit more about this movie. We're going to have some more videos this week. But John, thanks for being here, man. We doing it? Wakanda?
Oh, yeah.
Wakanda Forever? Let's go. Okay, let's walk away now.
All right, bye.
See ya. Just to elaborate on a few of my thoughts here, because I've had time to let the movie sink in, it's a film that the more you think about what they were able to do with this story and to make it so cohesive. Again, there's a lot going on. Like we said in the video, there's some jumping around that I wasn't a huge fan of at points, but these are all minor criticisms for an overall impressive job. Again, kudos to Ryan Coogler to have a Black Panther movie post Chadwick Boseman without the Black Panther that we all know and love. I think he did as good of a job as he could have done. I believe there's a lot here to respect and commend, even if you're not a huge fan of every plot point. And again, there are quite a few characters here and quite a few stories they had to balance. Did the movie need to be 2 hours and 40 minutes? Not necessarily, but for Coogler to take some time with a few of these characters and allow the shots to linger and set with them as they get emotional, you know, reeling from loss and the tragedies that they've all experienced even before losing their Black Panther. Because again, this is a post-Thanos world, right? This is a world that had to suffer the loss of half of the people on the planet. So there are plenty of emotions setting in, and then to introduce this new character, Namor, and I thought he did a wonderful job. It's a rock-solid performance. It's a cool introduction into the MCU, and you're going to get those nuggets and those Easter eggs in this movie. It's not without that. And one character in particular that I didn't think they needed to be in there, but they were in there nonetheless. Maybe I felt that way about numerous characters, but they handle it with care. Namor's storyline is interesting. Like we said in the video, it's one of those storylines you can see the perspective of that character, and that's just a really cool thing in a film like this. But the performances, Angela Bassett, obviously she's always amazing. Lupita Nyong'o is outstanding. Denai Guerrera as Okoye, she's always powerful when she's on screen. Winston Duke as M'Baku, he gets more time in this film than maybe I expected. He's one of my favorite characters in the universe as a whole, so I'm glad he got more screen time. Letitia Wright, look, I was hesitant about her storyline going in. I didn't know what to expect. Coogler did a great job of not only turning me around and allowing me to open up to that storyline, but to give her what they were able to give her and, again, allow her to showcase those emotions. There's one point where characters are really emotional, then it cuts to another scene and it felt a little bit out of place, but there are 2 or 3 other moments in the movie where they allow us to sit with them as they are sitting, and you can't really tell if they're acting or if they're actually getting emotional, and that's what I wanted to feel from this movie. So in that way, it works extremely well. And then the post-credits scene, we're not going to talk about it in this video, but that is also a moment that will get you emotional. So numerous things in this film that deliver. Austin, what about the humor? Well, I mentioned it. There are a couple of jokes, but not, I mean, you compare it to the first Black Panther, they relied on humor much more so. Oh, and of course the action. The third act of the first Black Panther, that's one of the biggest criticisms. That's my biggest criticism of the film. The CGI was just, the action was, the characters looked rubbery. In this film, it's grand, it's big, it's epic, it looks a lot better. You can tell there are moments in front of a green screen, obviously, but this underwater world is outstanding. Both worlds, the way that they look and feel, you spend more time in Wakanda, and every time we go away from Wakanda to the U.S., I'm like, no, let's go back here. Let's go to this visually stunning location, the set design. Maybe I wanted more from the score. Look, I love Goranson, I love the score from the first film, and it's really good here, but there were a few times where I didn't feel that hype that I felt in the first Black Panther. You know, the music's building, you're getting that, and you get that, but just not as often in this film. So maybe my one lackluster element here, technically better than the first film, but the score, not as good. Speaking of score, let's give this movie a score. Hey, I want to say thanks to John, the Flick Pick, for being in the video. As always, I'll see him again next week. And then my brother, Josh, for holding the camera the whole time. Thanks, Josh, for being steady. Wakanda Forever is as emotionally fulfilling as that brilliant first trailer. Not only is this a beautifully written script, but the cast crushes it. This is a sequel handled with care, and Coogler manages to raise his game from a directing standpoint. It delivers. Do I think it's more fulfilling than the first film? Maybe. As of now, I'm going at 83% with my score. This is a really good sequel. This is what you want from a sequel that had just the worst circumstances. By the way, hey, if you're still here, man, you want to drop a like. That's the best way to help this channel. That's the best way to help me and my journey on watching and reviewing everything I possibly can. Join me again next week. We're watching Knives Out 2, and this week we're going to be re-ranking all of the Marvel movies and TV shows, and I'm going to tell you why She-Hulk is the best thing to ever happen. That's a joke.